All right, we're live with Nate the Lawyer, Southern Law, Uncivil Law, Viva, Frei, and Ian Runkle, Runkle the Bailey. How's everybody doing?
Sorry.
Good.
All right. Kurt, your enthusiasm it's warming my heart. Awesome. So let's move on to Canada. What's going on, Viva, Frei, and Ian Runkle?
Ian is still behind the Iron Curtain. Ian, how's Canada?
Well, one of the interesting bits of news, and I think people are really they're really missing what this news is that Trudeau has broken up, or they're separating Trudeau from Sophie Trudeau. And the really interesting part of this is timing, because just before this happened, Trudeau appeared to do a conference, and he had this big bruise on his head. And everybody was told, you are not allowed to ask about the mark on his face. And of course, our media is our press corps is super diligent. And so they followed that restriction.
Okay.
They put out a statement saying that he injured himself playing with his kids, but this didn't come from Trudeau. This came from the press branch. And then days later, Sophie Trudeau, it's an open secret that she's wanted out of that relationship since forever. And she then, they then make a public statement about, okay, we're now separating. Well, she's wanted to be publicly out of that relationship since forever. And now it happens.
I'm going to share
Trudeau can't talk about it. I'm thinking that there is a huge NDA in the background. And what we're being told about this can't come from Trudeau's own mouth because he just can't say it. So it's going to be really
they can both date other men now?
Oh,
bada bing, bada boom. Look, one thing we know is that Trudeau has a history of being handsy with other women, but the rumor was that that was a two-way street, or at least it was a street that went both ways. Hunley, pull up the tweet. Ian, now that you mention it, what was it, a week ago? I put out a tweet and I said, as a joke, his horns are finally showing, because I saw this thing in the middle of his forehead and I didn't know what it was. And now it all makes bloody sense. It's literally like the ring from Ace Ventura when he's trying to find the ring with the missing gemstone. I don't know if you can see that. Look, zoom in on his head.
That's a pretty serious welt, man.
No, but
my bet is that there was some sort of physical confrontation, and that they're not talking about it.
And that's not to make light. Like, even in a fight, I'm no more tolerant of a woman striking a man than the other way around. Nor should anybody be. I thought I was just making a joke about his satanic horn being visible. I didn't know he actually got hit in the head. Runkle.
Hey, two things can be true at once.
Well, let's make sure we say allegedly. Because we don't know. We don't know. He could have bumped his head.
No, it could be a satanic horn and bonked in the head.
Well, maybe she struck the portion of his skin and revealed the horn underneath.
There you go.
It is basically a perfect circle. I'm trying to figure out what could leave that mark.
A ring.
He's a unicorn for sure, right? A very evil unicorn.
Could be a ring. Maybe someone threw an object and it just happened to hit in that way. But Ian, what do you make of the rumors of that it's a very convenient timing? Last year, Sophie Gregoire incorporated a communications company, and now because of the separation agreement into which they have entered, the provisions of the Conflict of Interest Act no longer apply to her because she's not married to cohabitating with another government official. So she no longer has to disclose conflict of interest disclosures or whatever would have been required under the law because now they have a separation agreement. Have you heard about that?
That's an interesting wrinkle on that, although I don't think she likes him. So I'm not sure that there is much conflict because I don't think she wants anything to do with him at this point. But
has everyone seen that famous video of them having to kiss after posing?
You mean the one where he does the kiss with her and she's like holding and
she whips her head around. She whips her head around so fast and repulsed, she almost flaps him with her ponytail. Let me see if I can find this. send it to you.
Yeah, Body Language Guy just put that out not long ago, like right around the announcement. So if you want to find a quick
Is it
copy
worse
of
than the body language between Donald Trump and his wife?
It's bad.
It's
real
bad.
No, it's very bad.
Hold on,
It's
let me
probably
see.
about that same.
Oh, it really,
Like,
really doesn't
these-
come up.
these-
Turns away
these-
real
These
fast.
do not
but
seem
makes,
like an enamored couple.
Yeah, she's
No,
slapping his
no.
hand away. Get your hand out of here, Trump. Yeah.
Oh, it might take a few seconds. It's funny. It doesn't come up in the top search results on YouTube.
I wonder why. I mean, YouTube is completely free speech now, right? Just like Twitter, they're both free speech, should come up immediately. What was
all the people who were like, "Oh yeah, Twitter is going to be free speech," I was like, "Nope."
Not if you want advertisers.
Yeah,
you want
don't bet on that.
Yeah, you want advertisers.
Well, and also, you've got a guy with a famously weak ego, like a famously fragile ego. It's not going to be, it's free speech the way Boozy's for free speech, which is.
Well, it's nice knowing the famously fragile can still ascend to high levels of power. So there's still hope for us all.
Oh, absolutely, but just don't make fun of the guy.
All right, Hunley, I found it. I'm gonna stick it into the private. It's embarrassing. And if it's the actual, it might just be the snippet where she moves away from him. But the general context, as far as I remember, they were making some stupid video, and then they had to wait there while they got the still photographs, and then okay, now kiss, and then they kiss. It's in a Daily Mail article, and it's like she was being forced to, being forced to kiss a turd.
Look at you could tell by her lips, everything.
Ugh, she doesn't want to smell him. I don't want to breathe.
Yeah.
Oh,
watch the after though.
This is great. I know.
Bonne fête du Canada, tout le monde.
Happy Canada Day, everyone. We love you.
Okay, now they have pause. Get your picture so we can have a nice picture. And
Steal
guys,
yourself.
You got to kiss. You got to kiss.
You can see her look at the ground.
Look at how long this is going. This is the most awkward pause ever.
Kiss.
Ready?
Look at this.
Okay.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
Yeah. No, not a happy camper here. You don't have to be a body language expert to say, I don't think she's into that.
Yeah. She definitely wasn't happy about that.
Oh my God. Oh, well, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. But the really creepy one is, did you see the video of him talking about the death of his brother? Because there he's with a woman who really adores him. A woman who is mooning over him. A woman who's his mother.
Mm-hmm.
That video is one of the creepiest videos I've seen in a while.
Yeah, that video was so strange. It is
strange.
Yeah.
This is what you say about your dead brother. If only he had stayed inside and played Nintendo and didn't go out there. And she gets into this smile and looks up at him adoring. Oh, dude, it's dark.
I'm seeing if I can find that because it is. Do you have it? Jesse speaks about the death of his brother. Here we go. Here it is. It's 21 seconds.
Nobody's quicker on a Trudeau video.
No, dude,
Got them all indexed, filed, dated.
No kidding. Oh my
no,
God.
I'm not
button for it.
Is this it? I think this is it.
It might be. I don't know.
I have no doubt that Justin Trudeau must really genuinely despise Viva Frei by now. He has to know who you are.
Maybe
he definitely knows who you are by now, and he must.
I know Jagmeet Singh knows that I exist, but maybe he doesn't because he might have accidentally retweeted or hearted a tweet. They have to have seen it. It's not possible.
You must have made it Prime Minister's daily briefing.
They have a whole ministry of truth. They know who they have their eyes on, and they definitely you're top 10 in the most wanted list for Justin Trudeau.
It's not possible that when he put out that ask me any questions, and then every one of my tweet replies was the top rated tweet reply question to ask Justin Trudeau that he didn't see that.
Yeah, your days of visiting Ontario or
let's watch it before
they're over.
This is the famous.
If only he hadn't done that which he did
at the podium, and about the smile of his mother, who hasn't smiled much since her youngest son was swept away by an avalanche.
If Michelle had decided to stay home and play.
By the way, you see that side smirk that he's doing? That's called Duper's Delight.
Yeah, but why is she smirking?
That's what I'm saying. This is creepy. This is. Let me back up.
What does that mean? Duper's Delight.
It's one of those that he bought it. You're buying my bullshit. It's a smirk. Yeah, it's literally
about the
looks like a
self-confidence of the
third-rate
man at
ski
the podium,
instructor.
and about the
Hold on, what?
He looks like a third-rate ski instructor.
Yes.
It looks like one of those John
That is
Bonet
accurate.
press conferences.
It's like a third-rate porno actor is what he looks like.
All right, well, check out their interaction.
podium, and about the smile of his mother, who hasn't smiled much since her youngest son was swept away by an avalanche.
If Michelle had decided to stay home and play chess and Nintendo, he would have been fine. But he chose to go out there, and that's what made the difference.
There was something.
Now,
If he had
his wife had that love for him, that looks like a lover.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Everything about it's disgusting. The man is not a good man.
I think that's just a creepy thing to say about your brother having.
Yeah.
You know,
Just
it's like if only if he decided to
it's a
stay
strange
home and play
tone to
chess.
express the point.
Yeah.
I didn't even know anything about his brother or the situation. He had a brother or that he's dead. But after watching 9 seconds of video, I think he killed him. That's how bad that looks.
I have to go back to refresh my memory in light of what I know now. I remember his brother died in an avalanche. It was a massive tragedy. Now, Joe, I have some questions myself.
I have
as to whether or
doubts.
not-
Yeah, I heard that it was the weirdest avalanche ever seen. Like the weather didn't justify that there could have been an avalanche, and it's like he was swept away. Swept away how?
You imagine
it's supposed to be confusing.
A translation of what he said was like, it's almost like a mobster saying, well, if he had just shut his mouth, we wouldn't have had to whack him. And
That's reading a little bit into it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know it's reading a lot into
of
it.
extra.
But what kind of person? I'm not saying that he had his brother whacked. I'm just saying, like, someone dies in a tragedy. Like, if they had just not been driving that night. I mean, in a way, you sort of think that to yourself, but you don't say that out loud. Like, if he had just stayed
You
home
don't
and
say it
played
in that
chess,
tone.
And
What if-
very
what if you-
specific. Play chess. Play Nintendo. Don't go outside. Don't ski. You left your confines. You know what happens.
Let it show- if he had-
It's very
I'm thinking
weird.
that's the brother that didn't look like Castro.
Probably.
Did Daddy Castro teach him about skiing accidents? Is that big in
Holy
Cuba?
cows.
Well,
Everybody's
Sidney
raising
Gottlieb
some-
might have.
I feel like I've missed something important.
David's favorite subject.
Oh, Trudeau. Okay.
Yep.
But now that you mention it, imagine if oh my goodness, I'm looking at pictures to see who looks more like Fidel Castro. I don't even remember what his brother looked like. Imagine
Doesn't look like
if-
Castro.
Wow.
No, I Justin looks a lot like Castro and admires Castro, along with Jinping or whatever from China. You know, he has a definite love for all the communist dictators.
A lot of your viewers probably don't recognize why it is that there's all this talk about that. But I mean, essentially, like 9 months before Justin was born, his parents were wealthy and huge supporters of Castro, spent a lot, and were known to be into alternate lifestyles. We're spending a lot of time hanging around Fidel. And if you look at pictures of Fidel shaven, there's a lot of similarities in appearance. And she was known. There's a lot of reports that there definitely was an open marriage. So that's what's fueled all this speculation that it's not just people who are mocking him for the sake of saying you're a socialist or communist or whatever, but that a lot of people really believe that there's DNA relationship there. He definitely looks more like Fidel than he does like his own father. If you look at pictures of his father young and Fidel young, and both in beardless, he looks a lot more like Fidel. Does that mean? I'm not saying. I don't know. I wasn't there, so
Southern law
theory.
I just pulled up another
Joe was
article. Eric, you got to bring this one up. It's an old article. It says Trudeau says his father used connections to help brother Michael avoid criminal record after pot charge. This is the brother who died in the avalanche.
Here's this guy. Everybody knows this guy on the right, right? That's Mikhail Castro. I mean, sorry, Mikhail Trudeau.
Well,
that's the younger brother. So this just goes to show you there's a connection here. This is Castro actually holding lovingly Trudeau's little brother.
Dude, that is one pissed off baby right there.
Well, I'd be too if it was Fidel. I mean, not
practicing his commie face.
Was there not a picture of Fidel actually holding up Justin himself?
Dude, that's what I came up with in 20 seconds. So I don't have him on the speed dial.
No, because I think you might.
I think there probably is one, but this is the younger brother.
You think Fidel had him whacked in a skiing accident?
Oh, so that is okay. So no, that the picture that people often circulate is saying it's Fidel holding Justin is actually that picture of Fidel holding his brother.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So.
But now look at this. That article about his brother escaped criminal charges with the help of his father. That now could support the theory that I was just contemplating in a Jean Le Carré novel.
No, we've never seen that happen before.
When did we start talking about Hunter Biden?
The segue.
Yeah, why not?
Have we compared his pictures to Castro too?
Who, Hunter and Castro? Oh,
yeah.
God, Lord. Good Lord. Good Lord. Did you guys see there's an interview with Jill Biden's ex-husband? Very, very interesting. Very interesting. People might want to check that out. Apparently, Joe wanted to make sure that he was out of the picture and maybe flexed a little bit with governmental power. Like, all of a sudden, bad things started raining down on this poor guy's business. Allegedly.
That will happen.
Hey, these things do happen. So let's move on to a cheerier subject.
Hold on, just before that. Tweety U.S. News says Castro was banging lots of women, ? Whether or not that's true, he probably was. It's a well-known secret that Pierre Elliott and his wife were into sexual, voracious, and diverse activities. I mean, it's both.
It means that's Justin's parents.
Justin's parents, absolutely. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, okay, well, here, this is a small picture, but it's the quickest I can come up with right now. Hold on. Come on. Yeah, I love Dead Time. This is.
Well, I'll say this. Flux says someone was telling me JT is gay. There have been long-standing rumors of also a sexually diverse. Oh, dude, no, you got to get the one that's a montage of Trudeau looking like Castro.
Well, dude, go ahead. You get on it. You're the Trudeau.
Yeah, seriously.
The Trudeau bloodhound.
We finally give you your spotlight, Viva. For the first time in your career, we're giving you a moment to shine.
Here we go, dudes. Here we go. It's in Meanwhile in. Okay, yeah, there. This is the one that you want, Eric. It's multiple. Now, in fairness, you don't know which pictures have been touched up. You can always find, like, that baby in Castro's arms looks a lot like me when I was a baby.
Yeah.
I said too much.
Is it?
Gary.
All right.
Check this out.
Weird that you would move to southern Florida.
Look at this.
There you go.
It's the mustache one that is. I mean, I don't even know that that's Castro on the right, but it looks like a 1950s actor.
I don't know. That whole top picture just looks like if you just drew a beard on Trudeau, they would look pretty much identical.
That's crazy. That's pretty crazy.
Eyes, nose, lips, mouth, chin.
Okay, so while we have that, let me find, and I think this helps give the comparison. Copy image address. So this is his looks compared to Castro. Here's his father. Now, which looks closer? I'm curious.
You need to really see his father younger, to be fair, though. I mean, you need to see his father to do a really fair comparison. But yeah, that dude looks. Look,
I will admit, I didn't expect his father to look like that.
It's surprising to me that his wife insisted on an open relationship. Considering what she was coming home to. So sorry, was that wrong? That was wrong.
No, that was great.
He actually looks like one of the characters in Monty Python's Twit of the Year Award skit.
Yep.
So how much longer has he got before another election? Do you still do elections, or you just do fake ones like we do?
Do you still do elections in Canada?
Okay, here. This is a small picture, but here is Pierre and Castro, which is interesting. So this is the guy who's supposed to be Justin's. Well, both people who are suspected as being his father.
Okay, so now
those two people actually kind of look kind of
similar.
Yeah, I mean,
can we do 21andMe?
At the end of the day, though, it's like, who's his father? I don't care. He's awful. It doesn't matter. Like, doesn't matter which, what his genetic lineage is. It's just,
But it's our salacious and
awful
prurient
whoever.
I know.
interest.
Why are you doing this? This is YouTube. I mean, come on. We can't have fun with that. We can't be.
I'll give $1,000
responsible.
to anyone that shakes Trudeau's hand and does a DNA swab and gets results back. I'm just curious. 89% Cuban.
David, you have a mission. You have a mission ahead of you. Okay, so next story. Let me go with Steve. And by the way, I have a cheat code for Friday morning sometimes when I'm like, okay, what the hell do I talk about this week? I go to Southern Law. Every Friday morning, Steve is wrapping up in a nice digest form all the stories on the week, which everybody definitely check out. It's very, very cool, succinct, like this is what's going on here. This update is here. This is going on. And today he was talking about Brian Koberger a little bit, and you shared a personal story. So could you update us on Brian Koberger and the situation and how you can personally relate to maybe some of the situation?
Well, so last week we talked about, when Andrea was here, she talked about the alibi filing by Koberger's team. Not a traditional alibi, right? It was basically, we'll tell you later and we'll establish it through cross-examination, which is not really an alibi. So they've updated that and said, well, he was out driving around because he likes to drive around by himself late at night, which some people do, right? But we can't tell you where he was while he was driving around, but maybe we'll figure it out in cross-exam. So in this, they've admitted the guy was not in his house, right? And he's out driving around in the community somewhere, which to me shows they know that the video from the apartment complex where he was living is going to show that he left there, and his phone left and he turned his phone off. And, everything in isolation could be innocent or guilty or whatever, but, this starts to develop the picture against this guy. Still early in the case or whatever, but I was out driving around anywhere except for where the murders were going on is not a traditional alibi.
Well, and as someone from that neck of the woods, there ain't a lot of streets in Moscow to drive around in late at night.
Yeah,
so I'm streets there.
Not buying that. Eric, I don't know if you're talking about the war story I told about my late night driving.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was young, somewhere around his age, because I was in college, I had to go take some keys home for a guy at work. And I was coming out of the Army, but still associated with the military. So I had a 45 in a car, some uniforms, ropes, and things you have when you do stuff like I used to do. But I didn't have my driver's license. And so it was late at night, and we didn't have GPS back then, trying to figure out where this guy lived. And I pulled over to the side of the street, look at the map, and I see a car come in behind me. And guys get out with flashlights. They start coming up to the side of my truck. So I'm just watching them now on the side view mirror and because I don't know who they are, and let them get as close to my vehicle as I can, so they're as far away as I can get them from theirs, and then I take off. And not long, they start yelling and waving the flashlights. Obviously, right after that, there's police all over the place, and there's lights and stuff, and they're pulling me over, and now they got guns and stuff, and get out of the truck. So I do it, but I don't have my ID on me. And they're like, why'd you run from us? And I said, well, I didn't know you were the police. You didn't have any lights on or anything. So I'm headed to Western Boulevard so I can get to where there are people. And the guy goes, well, that makes sense. He goes, I guess you know why we pulled you over. And I said, no, I don't have any idea. And they said they were looking for a serial rapist who was a white guy with short hair, which is a description that could fit me. And
and most of the world.
Which part?
Yeah. Yeah. So I did, but what I did do a long time ago, which was something you do in the Army, is you memorize all the things that ID you. And I knew my driver's license number. So I gave them that. And eventually they talked to me for a little bit and let me go, but there were police all over the place. So there's a case where you can be out driving, very suspicious, because if they didn't search my truck because they didn't have a concealed weapon permit back then in North Carolina. So I had a 45 in it. I had ropes, knives, camouflage stuff. It would have been a little harder to explain if they had searched it, but I was totally smooth back then and talked my way out of it. Wow. But Koberger, I don't know.
Let a serial killer go, huh?
Yeah, here's something I didn't have: my DNA on a sheath under a murder victim. So I didn't have to explain that away. Yeah, that makes it a little.
Well,
tougher.
they hadn't invented DNA back then, so who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
it's time to open some.
Do you find that's a good thing? Do you think that's a good thing to add to your resume, like not yet convicted, suspected rapist,
and not serial rapist?
I gotta say, Steve, like it's a very interesting thought process that you in real time waited for them to get as far from their car as possible before taking off.
He is special forces trained.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was a little more tactical back then, and so I was watching, and when I don't know who they are. If they'd had their lights on, it'd been different. But I was in a dark neighborhood trying to find somebody's house that I'd never been to. And, you don't want to have to defend yourself if you can avoid it. So I wanted to leave and get to where there were lights and civilization, because I knew how to get to Western Boulevard. And they didn't like it, but I didn't know they were the police. But I will say this for the Raleigh police, which is when they did pull me over with the actual cards and stuff, they were understanding of why I was leaving the scene. Mm-hmm. So I'd have no problem with how
you
they
were
handled
military
it.
Though, weren't you?
Yeah.
But I will confess that every time I got pulled over from the cops, which occasionally happened, and I was in the Army, for some reason I always had to show, my driver's license, and I coincidentally would, give them my military ID at the same time for some reason. I don't know, but sure seemed to help a lot on the ticket front.
Around here it did. I got pulled over a lot, but not all of them were suspicious for violent crimes like that. So that one was okay, worked out okay.
But the military background and doing that does help a great deal, or it did at that time. Now, God only knows, but I think at that time it definitely helped you out.
Oh.
But,
maybe not if you were in Vietnam, but up here in Raleigh it did.
Well, you're smarter than the average bear. The only time I've had police pull guns on me twice. The first time was when I was 18 on a motorcycle trip through Oklahoma. I had my little Smith & Wesson 1911 on the seat behind me, like strapped on behind the seat, and of course, it was always open carry. And I'm thinking, okay, every jurisdiction is different. And someone just said, a police officer friend of mine said, you just always want to let them know that you're carrying before they find it yourself. And they pulled me over for speeding in the Oklahoma Panhandle at 3:00 in the morning. And my 18-year-old brain wasn't thinking as well as your tactical brain was.
Uh-oh. I'm
just sitting there. For some reason, it seemed like a really good idea to say, officer, I have a gun. That was not the wisest thing to say. In retrospect, I could think of several other ways of phrasing that.
Yeah, there's sort of various ways to say it, and you picked one of the worst.
Which ended up being drawn upon, and me explaining, no, behind me, and him saying, were you looking to die? I'm like, no. So it could have been phrased differently. So that was I was
just say ahead of time. Yeah, but I guess you would advise a preamble, right? Like, officer, I want you to know that if you look in the trunk, that you will find a blah, 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 but very specifically and kind of dry in the presentation.
There were many other ways I could have phrased that. Literally every other way than what I said. For some reason, I thought just get to the point. It's like literally everything else I could have possibly said would have been better than what I did.
Right. Well, that's why I'm with a bunch of lawyers, and it's kind of to advise people. Some of our audience may carry, and what is the best way to identify that you have a weapon? No, we got that not to do. So
if you have a concealed carry permit, hand it along with your ID is the best way to do it.
Okay.
Even if you're like open carry, because it just shows, it's basically an indication to the cop. It's basically telling them I have a firearm, and it also shows that you have a license to do so. So that would be what I do.
And my view is it's not their birthday, so don't give them a surprise, and have your hands where they can see it. And if it's going to be something like you said, they're going to see, even though they spaz down on Jeff a little bit, telling them is better than them looking behind it and seeing it and thinking, well, you didn't want us to know that you were going to.
Yeah.
I mean, I because that's what I used to do a lot of times. Back before we had concealed carry, I'd just throw it on the back seat. I got pulled over with an Anaconda one time, a 44 Magnum Colt in the back seat, and the guy's like, "Oh, that's cool." But I have to say the police have never hassled us around here. I don't get pulled over like I used to when I was young, so maybe it's different now. But
where are you, so everybody knows?
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, well, but more rural part, right? Not metro.
Yeah, I mean, I live on not actually in the city limits, but I mean, we have every day. I mean, we have guns in our car, so we have a protocol for letting the police know that if we do, and if you're going to drink a beer, then you're not technically under the concealed weapons thing anymore. So, but you can defeat that by locking up the firearm. And there are a lot of things you should know if you want to make sure you're inside the law if you're traveling around with a gun here. But open carry is something you can do here.
Well, here you've got to have everything locked up, which has led to some really fun interactions with the police, because I'm driving back from the range and I've got like 4 gun boxes, each with a lock on it, because that's also required, sitting in my back seat. And the officer's like, "So, do you have a gun on you?" And I'm like, "I'm not answering any questions." He's like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, those look like gun boxes." I say, "I don't know how you want me to respond to your observations, officer, but I'm not answering any questions." He really wanted to go and have a look in those things, and I'm not having it. So it ended up turning like a 5-minute speeding ticket into a 20-minute speeding ticket, but it also didn't turn it into him digging out all of my guns to have a look at them and to check each one to see if they could find something to charge me with. So
yeah, I covered a video like this on Attorney Reacts, where and the overarching theme that your viewers should be aware of, and if any of you feel otherwise, please let me know. It's in general, if the police are asking you to consent to something like a consent of your vehicle, it's usually wisest to say no and say respectfully, I don't consent. But to be compliant, if they direct you to do something, I would recommend you definitely want to be compliant. You definitely do not want to be hostile or present yourself as a potential threat. But if they're asking for your consent for something, that means they recognize that absent your consent, they do not have a legal right to conduct further search. So,
now some states, though, because I saw the comment by Steve Gosney, which is not something I disagree with. However, some states for concealed weapon permit, you have an obligation to declare the fact you have the weapon when you're in an encounter with an officer. So everything is, like I always say on my own videos, we got 50 states, dudes, and they're all different.
That's why I just say, just hand them the permit along with the driver's license. It's the easiest way to notify them. You notify them right away. No muss, no fuss.
Unless you're supposed to verbalize it as well, then I would say it too. There's a permit there or whatever. But to tag on with Joe, what you're saying also, Joe, is that you say you do not consent, and if they choose to do it anyway, you do not interfere in any way. You just have it on the record that you did not consent. Is that what you're pointing out?
Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, it certainly would never recommend being a hostile or a threat. And you can be firm in saying, I do not consent to any of this. And, and it sort of leaves them hamstrung. I mean,
it's always good, too, to let them know that you pay their salary.
No,
I pay your salary.
Yeah, you're a public servant. You do what I want.
Yeah.
The
I'm
other
a
thing,
YouTuber. Can I say, don't you know who I am? Can I say that?
Oh, that's a good one.
The other fun thing is people are always like, well, I opened the gun box because the officer asked me to. And my take on that, at least where I am, is always just go ahead and break it. That gun case is what, $50, $100? Maybe it's really nice and $300. That's cheaper than the lawyer to argue whether or not you consented to it. Because the one thing that says I didn't consent to this search is they broke into your case.
Ah, good point.
That snapped lock is excellent evidence of I didn't agree to let him go in there.
Have you argued that before?
I have argued that before because little old lady who was the mother of the guy who owned the guns, when the police came, they were like, "Where's the keys?" She's like, "I got no idea." They drilled into the safe, and then later she said that we could drill into the safe. And I'm going, really? Like, she said you could spend like 45 minutes destroying property? I don't think so. I don't think that's what actually went down. And judge agreed. We're just like, no, this argument of consent doesn't make any sense. Because if it was consent, they would have found the keys.
All right. This is Super Chat. Do you guys agree with this? Best advice, do not talk to the police. They're not your friends. If they want something, they can get a warrant.
Don't talk to the police unless you have an obligation to talk to the police, which you may in some circumstances.
Like your ID, what your name is, basic stuff, right?
I mean, clearly we don't want to give any legal advice whatsoever on a channel with like a bunch of lawyers on it. But where do you personally draw the lines? I just giving your license and your name and identifying yourself is okay. It uncomplicates something and lets you get where you're going.
And how about where you're going too? Like I
don't think so. No, yeah, it's like none of your
Well,
business.
there's no obligation, but does it bother you? Like if you're just driving through and you're headed to another state or whatever, I'm pretty open about it. Where are you going? I'm headed to California. I might be in Arizona. I'm headed to LA.
The thing is you don't necessarily know which things are a problem, because what you'll hear, what I see all the time is somebody gets stopped. Say they're in BC and they're going to Edmonton. I've made that drive. And then what it goes down is he admitted that he was traveling along a known drug route. You didn't know that it's a known drug route. And in fact, the officer may have just made that up, but now you've admitted a direction and path of travel. He doesn't know if you're going to the convenience store 10 minutes away or however long. And so, yeah.
You certainly don't know what answers are going to be significant to him, because you don't know what's going on in his mind or what alerts he may be aware of or what profile you might meet the description of. You have no idea what will be significant. So,
okay. Next,
I don't want to talk about my day is what the Pop Brothers at law say, and I like that answer.
Dude, I'm trying to find the video right now of the Shut the F Up Friday.
I don't want to talk about my day. Shut the F Up Friday, which is every day of the week, and it's this way of the week too.
The other thing that works pretty well is answering questions with questions. You know, it's like,
what's it?
Where are you going today?
Do you know how fast you were going? Officer, why did you pull me over? And now he's got a question he's got to answer. Probably, at least where I am, they're required to tell you why you're being detained. And now he's lost that question that he was trying to ask you. But all of this is just...
Got to be careful with that, though, Ian, because just going by personality dialogue. If you're really respectful, like you could probably get away with it because you might have this innocent face. But if you at all come off of what you're questioning me, in the wrong area, you could wind up just pissing them off, and then they may find other issues to come up with.
That might be funny though. Be like, are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? But if there's one thing that we all did is we spent lots and lots of money and we learned the Socratic method. We can throw questions back at them really well.
I just always say, "Yo no say." Yo no say.
Yeah. Oh well, Kiki Ray's got it here. What about I don't identify as speeding?
Yeah.
I'll tell you,
I'm a traveler on the land.
Last week. When I was on my way, I was actually trying to do a stream after the show while I was driving up the mountains, and I could not get reception. I was really getting frustrated because I was like 20 minutes late in starting my thing, and I just could not get reception. And all of a sudden, I see lights on behind me, and they pull me over, and I had my phone mounted on a mount there. And when he pulls me over, so he asked me for my ID and everything, and I asked him why he pulled me over. So he said I was weaving. Apparently, like while I was just fiddling with the phone, he said I was weaving. So I was like, well, I couldn't get reception. I was trying to get Waze, which is one of the things I was trying to hook up to. So I was trying to get Waze, and I couldn't get reception. So I was a little distracted by that. So he asked, and so in that circumstance, he asked me where I was going, and I realized I just told him I need Waze. If I'm going around the corner, I wouldn't need Waze. So I told him where I was going in that circumstance. And at the end of the day, here's the thing: you're sort of balancing, and I think anyone who's in this situation is ultimately balancing, because your objective is I want to get out of this, and I want to be done with this and move on as quickly as possible. So a lot of times, what leads someone in that circumstance to talk perhaps too much is they feel if I tell them something that sounds reasonable and I'm relatable, in that case, they're much more likely to let me go than if I act kind of like, a D-bag and just annoying him and being kind of a jerk. So, and frankly, it worked out in my circumstance there. And then as I drove, as he ended up letting me go, and then I realized I'm wearing this hat. I'm wearing this freaking hat. So I don't know if that helped or not. I don't know what the story is. And yeah, I'm only thinking about this because it's just last week that I was violating this directive. But in that circumstance, I'm thinking I just told him that the reason I was weaving is because I was trying to get reception because I needed to have Waze. So now he's asking me where I'm going. I sort of have to explain to him why I need Waze, and I'm not just going 3 miles away. But
it's a very believable story because it's specific. The more specific a story is, the more believable.
And I even showed him my phone had no reception. I said, "Look, you see here, I've got no reception." I was getting very frustrated by that. So, and
where I am just saying, "Hey, I was on my phone," has instantly bought you a new ticket, and
one that actually spikes.
That's why
the ticket's
right,
$200.
If it's mounted, you're okay. It's not if it's mounted, it's the problem.
So that's how you get signal? You're driving the car.
You got to weave into the signal, baby.
It's like, hold on. Oh, it might be oncoming, but I got it. Kids, I can beat this train. Oh, my God. That sounds almost worse. Okay, next story. Nate has a video that'll be coming out anytime. Can you tease us with the subject and what's going on? Or are you being sotto voce?
Oh, no. So obviously, you guys know who Mr. Beast is. Hopefully people in the crowd know. But he essentially got scammed. with Beast Burgers. I don't know if you guys have heard the story.
Yeah.
Yep. So what happened?
Do you think?
Huh? Yeah, he got scammed for like millions of dollars. So essentially, this is what this company did. So Mr. Beast is, the all around good guy. Let's help everybody be, get money. So he decided during the pandemic, you know how all those mom and pop restaurants were closing down because they, nobody was going to the restaurants. So he said, well, maybe there's a way I can help these local businesses. So they decided to do what's known as a virtual restaurant. So what he would do is send those restaurants the packaging and the ingredients for his burgers. And those restaurants would then prepare the burgers. And if you go like the DoorDash or one of those companies or Grubhub, you can order Beast Burgers. So you would order a Beast Burger, and then those local mom and pops would make the burgers and send them to you. So it was super great for those mom and pops because they were making something like, some of them were making 10 grand a week just selling Beast Burgers because he was so popular. Now, Mr. Beast would, for his end, he would just promote the product, but there was another company called Virtual Dining Concepts who actually was in charge of doing all the background stuff, making the burgers, sending out the packaging, quality control and all this type of stuff. Next thing we know is that so it's been 3 years later, Mr. Beast, there was a whole bunch of complaints online that the burgers that they were selling weren't even being cooked. They were raw. So if you go on, you can look at all the, I can share the document, but in the lawsuit, you can see from Reddit to YouTube to all the social media sites, people were buying these burgers from the Mr. Beast store, and it was raw. The chicken, the chicken nuggets were raw inside. It was the disgusting stuff.
Were they not supposed to cook them? Were they supposed to be buying a cooked burger ready to eat, or were they supposed to cook them themselves?
They were supposed to be buying a cooked burger ready to eat. So the Mr. Beast store, because
like
they opened up
DoorDash.
But they opened up an actual store. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. So they opened up an actual store, and the actual store was selling this undercooked meat. So it's been covered by I have let me pull a link up so you guys can see it, but it's horrible stuff.
This
sounds really awful.
It's just trying to expand. It's like crusty level merchandising, too much stuff, and you can't keep control over it. I'm just looking at some of the videos here on Twitter, but I can't stop finding.
It's like drop shipping food in a weird way.
Yes.
He's saying here's or an instant franchise, whatever. Here's the labeling, here's the paper, here's what the standards are. Mix this together, sell it. That's a burger cooked to this level. But how do you enforce standards?
Exactly. Well, that was in his agreement. He was just the face of the thing. Anyway, I'm Mr. Beast to sell the burgers, but they were supposed to be doing all the background work. So they opened up a physical store. I've actually been there with my kids, and so this is the physical store. So from the physical store, see how the burgers on the inside are raw.
That's a good medium rare to me.
And in fairness, that could also be
how the chicken is raw on the inside.
Okay,
that's
not good. That'll kill you.
Cold. Oh my god!
I was going to say the first one looks like it could be pulled pork or something. That chicken. Oh my goodness!
No, that's bad.
But there are thousands of reviews all over the place. So Mr. Beast was like, "Yo, what the hell?" So
they just got to rebrand to Mr. Beast Sushi.
Oh. Would you like your burger tartare?
So I got no problem with the burger, but the chicken,
the chicken is a little bit. So he went to so he contacted the company. It's like, "Yo, what's going on?" They so they were trying to figure it out. Come to find out, the company was doing a whole bunch of shit behind his back. Number one, this Beast Burger's been around for 3 years. They never paid him a dime. The whole prospect made millions of dollars. They're supposed to split the profits 50-50. They paid him nothing. And then on top of that, they secretly because Mr. Beast in their contract said, well, you have to keep my name. He kept all his intellectual property, right? You can't use my name. You can't do this without my prior approval. So secretly what they did was they got his approval to use it here in the US and then went to all these other countries and trademarked his name in all these other countries behind his back. So he's like, yo, you stole my name, you didn't pay me, and you're serving undercooked food to all my fans. So now he's suing them to get his money, to essentially end Beast Burger, and to make them pay for the damage to his reputation. Because now everybody's saying that Mr. Beast is scamming them, and he's like, I didn't scam anybody. this other company scammed.
Yeah, but
So,
how long was this going on for? This is not a question of blaming the victim. It's maybe a question of him not paying enough attention to a culpable level. How long was all of this going on for before the shit hit the fan and Beastburger realized it was crap, or Mr. Beast realized it was crap?
well, it's been going on for 3 years, but it
Problem.
seems like recently this problem, because they were doing rapid expansion, and I think they lost quality control when they started doing it. And that's what caused this whole uproar. Because again, Mr. Beast didn't even know this was going on until he started seeing because all the reviews, if you go to Yelp, if you go to any place that reviews Mr. Beast Burger, you'll see pictures of raw meat, and it's just like
for whatever it's worth, I've had Mr. Beast Burger on a couple times, and I've been pleased. I haven't found to be exceptional, but they're okay. So my experience at least has been tolerable.
But
doing it. By the way, you just became the perfect sponsor man for Mr. Beast Burgers Uncivil.
It's okay. It's tolerable. Is the sponsor?
It's really it's really not like yuck.
It's adequate.
Do you know where the suit is, Nate?
Nate,
I'm pull. Here it is right here. I'll put it in the chat so you guys can.
Consumption. You know,
I'll put it in the chat so you guys can.
No, but maybe they serve.
I'm assuming everybody wants to cover it.
He's a North Carolina guy, you know.
They served it wildly undercooked because the idea was you want to microwave it when you get it so that it's hot when you eat it. But Nate, we talk about latches a lot. The term comes up, but setting aside the raw burger crap, which I'm sure he found out about real quick, they're gonna say, look, we've been doing this for 3 years. You have had exercised no oversight over the accounting or anything. You're as much to blame for your own loss as we are for having caused it.
Well, hold on,
but
David.
don't forget
this is a physical store. Because he was doing the virtual kitchen before, and Kurt said he's had it, no problem. So that could have been fine. And then when he built it out, that's not necessarily 3 years old. So
and
it could have been working and then turned.
And on top of that, you have to also understand his role in the whole thing. His contract was just so he's the front man.
Yeah,
he's just promoting it. He's not cooking burgers and stuff. He's just promoting it. They were supposed to do this. So. And this is the lawsuit. So they have all the reviews in there.
Raw and disgusting. I just saw.
Yeah, raw, Mr. Beast.
To be fair, it's called Mr. Beast Burger. It's not like lions are like actually spending a lot of time over a grill.
Good
you know,
point.
See, look at this one. So it's crazy. But now all the left wing people are saying, and then they're talking about, some people are talking about suing them for getting sick from the burgers because they were raw. So it's all here in the lawsuit. So Mr. Beast is looking for millions of dollars. But I thought the interesting part was he essentially got scammed because he hasn't even been paid for any of this stuff. They've took all the money. So it's a horrible.
Yeah, he said I read it a little bit more differently. He said he hadn't been paid a dime, and I'm like, I wonder what his compensation is. Because what is it supposed to be? Is he supposed to be getting paid? Is it an equity thing?
Yeah, he's supposed to get.
What is the nature of the consideration?
Well, he said he was supposed to get 50-50. This company, Virtual Concepts Holding, is supposed to take 50%, and he's supposed to get 50%. But he at this point, I think it's line 7. He says that he hasn't received. Where is that? Line 7. I'll put this in the private chat so you guys can get it. But
this line chunk.
His line 7. To be clear. While the business has made millions of dollars, Mr. Beast has not received a dime.
He has a brilliant angle of using philanthropy to make himself wealthy. And I'm not saying that.
I mean, like Bill Gates. Oh, sorry. Go on.
I'm not saying this as an attack on him. Like, for example, he has a video about being a bank that gives away money, and I don't know, they give away $100,000, $1 million or something like that to just people who are really in need. And he's phenomenal at producing a video, and people don't realize that when he does something like that, just the views and everything he ends up making from these videos makes him 10 times that. So
I don't think it does though. He's been in the hole for a long time. He's dropping $3 million on a video for production and things like that, or more. And he's even talked about that. He's constantly chasing. He's kind of like Amazon. Amazon, I don't think was profitable for 20 years.
Yeah,
they just kept living off of growth, and people just kept throwing money into them, but they didn't actually make the money in of themselves. He's not like PewDiePie. PewDiePie was just printing money. I don't think the guy even replaced his headphones for 10 years.
Well,
put very little into it and just was collecting.
Not that it's really accurate in any way, shape, or form. I'm just Googling his net worth, and he seems to have Wikipedia has him with a net worth of 500 million. Is that possible?
No.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. You're telling me he's not making money on these.
no, he's
things.
making money, and he's suing for the money he made here.
The problem is this,
by the way, power to him. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that a recognition of his skill and his ability and the brilliance behind it, because people like seeing someone being philanthropic to those who are in need, and it's there's a certain genius to it.
Well,
which I respect.
I'm cynical of the ones, those videos where people go around and giving $10,000 to a homeless person and then and those videos seem somewhat exploitive, and not saying that that's what Mr. Beast is. Setting all of the
early one that he
but
did, he made money because sponsor did that. The sponsor gave the money. It was 100% sponsor money he gave to the homeless guy.
Yeah, he just
so the views were his.
So he would give the sponsor, like he would say, "Give me $10,000 to sponsor the video," and then he'd take that 10 grand and just give it to the homeless.
The problem is that Mr. Beast clearly has more money than he knows what to do with. If he went 3 years under a contract without asking to get paid for it, I mean that's just a question of
same. Well, that's like any rock star, David.
With, I know, but it is the same as any rock star. I'm just saying, like, that's how they get into trouble. On the one hand, losing the money, and on the other hand, like signing on to deals where they don't exercise the requisite degree of oversight. It's also
I have the same thing with my contract with Eric. I've never gotten a check from him yet.
It's in the mail. It's in the mail. I sent it to Kurt. He's supposed to forward it.
Runkle, what's up with Runkle and your hot sauce? Like, I want to get into hot sauce because I like hot sauce.
Well, it's funny because somebody was starting up a fermenting company, and they were like, "Hey, do you think you'd like to make a hot sauce?" And I went, "Absolutely," because I love hot sauces and I eat insane levels of them. So I actually had previously made a hot sauce that I really liked, and it was. But then I was getting towards the end of that, so I just kind of sent the guy, "Hey, here's what's in that. Can you replicate that?" And he did. So I've got like 120 bottles of this that I'm currently. The current holdup is the FDA, because in order to ship anything into the U.S., you need an FDA registration number for the for where it's made, and that's taking.
Can you find it?
It's all about the marketing.
You can find somebody make it here.
You have to call it LL Runkle's hot sauce. For like ladies love Runkle's.
But Runkle, hold on. Do you have physical possession of the 120 bottles? You're going to ship them yourself?
Yeah,
that was mistake number one. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'd sell those in Canada. Find somebody down here to make it. Who already, you've got the recipe, and then you just license it.
That's probably the plan. Is just get that set up. But at the end of the day, it's like I just wanted to do it. It's not.
I say just put a bottle in a box and send it off to Korea and put olive oil on the customs label. And
I have no idea. Runkle, are you really going to be sitting there like with your tongue out, like making mailing labels as you're like printing this stuff out to send to people? I can't imagine how much money I would have to be paid to send.
I'll just hire a printing company to print. Like
he's been licking the hot sauce because there's like a little red stripe going up.
Joe licks his own stamps, folks. Note that Joe licks his own stamps. So
when I'm locked into something, I will tell you this. When I'm locked in something like really focused, I notice that I'm one of these people who like the tongue will come out and like I'll be like sort of as I'm like sort of like locked in, and the biggest pride I ever had as a parent. Biggest pride ever. I can't even explain it. Is when my first boy, he was 6 years old, and he was playing some shooting video game, and that tongue came out when he was like locked in there, and I was like, "That's my boy. That's my boy."
By the way, Joe, just for people who don't know, how many kids do you have?
I got 3 boys and 3 girls.
That means you have 6 children that came out of your.
How many grandchildren?
Your butt.
I have now. God bless 3 grandsons, no granddaughters. And my son is actually engaged. I'm making a wedding September 6th. So yeah.
But
I have 1 married daughter. It went girl, boy, girl. It went girl, boy, girl, boy, boy, girl. So yeah. So the oldest daughter is married, and my oldest son is engaged now. So.
Well, that's cool that they kind of blended, going back and forth.
Yeah.
So they have it's the same sexes are a little further apart then, is what you're saying.
They're they're crazy tight, like they're crazy close with each other. It's really it's a beautiful thing. Like they really enjoy hanging out with each other and just sort of like joking around. And I'm very blessed. It's a wonderful atmosphere that Lady Logic has fostered here, where it's like they're just like really comfortable, like coming home and being home. It just feels like
Runkle, you got a name for yourself?
Very much.
So. I've already I've got sort of, there's 2 spice levels. So the default one is everyone makes mistakes, and the other one is burn your regrets.
Okay.
I've got labels for them sort of designed up and all of that.
You should white label it too.
Ian, have you ever had the you ever heard of Blair's Death Sauce?
I don't think I've had that one.
So there's one called Blair's Death Sauce, and they have like a spectrum of death, and it goes from like whatever to mega death. And I once got the bottle of like what was on the full end of death, like 100,000 Scoville units, and I used it like ketchup, and it was, I mean, the meal was not edible afterwards. But then I went to the bathroom to go pee pee, and 20 minutes later, I couldn't figure out why my entire hram was burning like fire. I was like, "Oh, that's why." I'm sitting in my office alone. I was like, "What the heck is going on down there?"
So what's the name of that sauce?
Burn your pee-pee is what it is called.
Yeah. Hey, you know, one thing.
Somebody sent me one you'd really like here.
Is it ghost pepper?
Trudeau. And someone sent me this yesterday. This is called Flush the Turd with natural mathematics.
Well, that looks like Uncle Joe's new cup.
Oh, God.
Well, Ian, you had the puldak ramen. Did you ever eat that?
I did. I actually decided it wouldn't be all that interesting on a stream because I got the standard variety and it was just like, this is just good.
Yeah.
It's tasty, but there's nothing like.
Well, there's the hotter nuclear version, but I'll email you because I'm going to bring a bottle of it and I'm just going to ship it from the U.S. to like the sauce that's in the nuclear version of that. So
excellent.
One
thing I recommend.
Aren't you coming to Houston?
Yeah. So I'm going to bring the bottle from Korea to Houston, mail it from the U.S.
Well, why not? Why not? By the way, who and all is going to be in Houston here?
For Anime Mitsuri?
Yeah.
Nate and Kurt might be in Houston at some point during that time period. I'm not sure. But me, Ozzy Overlord's already over there.
I think
Chandler
Legal Mindset,
Remington,
Nick Ricada, Chandler.
Yeah, Andrew Legal Mindset will be there. Ricada,
Nate, you're going to be there, right?
Yeah. I'm going to be there for sure.
Yeah. Chandler Remington, Jessica Reloaded.
God, now I want to go. I have nothing. I hate anime.
Andrew Brank is thinking about it.
Bronk is going to
forget the anime. Forget the anime.
It's like a lawyer's convention.
Yeah.
If I'm ever sober enough to walk unaided or drive a vehicle, people are failing in their duties to me. I'm just going there to be as liquored up as possible and meet people.
I did want to mention there's a news story that's breaking about the left eating its own now. So I don't know if you guys know about the rapper Lizzo. She's like the super plus
you
size
read
rapper.
that one?
It's a great lawsuit.
Yes, that's a
fantastic
lawsuit.
Insane.
It is
It's
sick.
spicy.
So
here's my question:
Are there
hold
pictures?
on, let me put her up on the stage. Here she is.
I don't.
And she does the
thank
background
God! I thought
dancers and
I thought you were going to show that picture of her on the stairs with the darker shades of pale going up the thighs. Oh, that was horrific. That picture.
This is the lawsuit that alleges that they were in the red light district in Amsterdam and they were forced to eat bananas semi-protruding
out
from
of
sex workers' vaginas.
Yes,
the lady bits.
This is the lawsuit, and she was like the queen of don't fat shame me. You know, I'm big is beautiful. Come to find out, she was allegedly firing her dancers for being too fat.
No, see, that was my question, Nate. That was what I was going to ask. How, and as a larger gentleman myself, how fat do you have to be for Lizzo to fat shame you?
No, the whole concept is that I guess she wants to be the only plus size that gets to tout it.
Yeah, but then she's hiring people who are a non-traditional size. Then what's the issue, right? If you're saying
you can say
can't
fat,
move,
Eric, come on.
I'm
non-traditional size.
Can we just digest, pun intended, the allegations in this lawsuit that they went out partying in the red light district and they were forced to catch dildos that were being projected from vaginas, unless it was from other parts, and eat bananas that were semi-protruding. I mean, The only thing grosser than that is eating an undercooked Mr. Beast chicken burger.
That's called a callback, folks.
And as long as we're on the callbacks, Mr. Beast lost a good opportunity there because there's actually a burger chain here in Korea that is really, I mean, it's actually good, decent burgers. The brand name is No Brand Burgers. That's just like No Brand Burgers, and their tagline is "Why pay more? It's good enough."
Yeah,
when you covered the story calling it the left eating its own, I assumed that it was just about McDonald's running out of cheeseburgers, so where they're going to go. But
you guys don't know what no name. Sorry, go for it. I'm just going to show you something.
No, I just say all the left wing media has like totally, because they were all supporting it. They've totally abandoned her. Even on The View, which I was surprised, I was shocked. The View was like, I believe these allegations to be true. Because there have been essentially, there was a documentary filmmaker who went to document the whole big girl craze and Lizzo stuff, and the documentary filmmaker who was nominated for an Oscar, she quit the project because she said Lizzo was a horrible person and she was doing all this stuff. So they were like, so this has been around. It's like the Harvey Weinstein thing where everybody kind of knew, but nobody said anything, and now even former dancers who are not part of the lawsuit have come out and said what they're saying is true.
No, her defense is going to be that it was all by consent. We went partying in Amsterdam and we're just into nasty stuff. But you know that there has to be videos and photographic evidence of this stuff.
Oh, and please tell me no.
I don't know. I've never seen it. I just say don't
go to TMZ. TMZ has it. TMZ does have it.
And careful when you read the lawsuit. There might be evidence with it.
No, it's enough. It's enough. The bananas semi-protruding from vaginas. I mean, it's the stuff of nightmares. I mean, that's like hazing gone wrong. So what I was going to say there, in Canada, we have something called a no name. We have No Name brand in Canada, which is literally a brand called No Name. I don't think you have it in the States. It's beautiful. You see it everywhere. It just says No Name.
Let me show you the picture of the banana thing. They have like this. Here's right here.
I'm gonna vomit. I'm gonna puke.
No. It's not but that's the cartoon thing. That's how they promote it. Where it's somebody
called
sitting
banana
on a
bar.
Banana.
Going bananas banana bar.
And so a woman is sitting on it.
Did they actually censor that sticker just for this picture, or is it really that in the sticker?
Yes.
Which is really so sad. I'm sorry. It's like,
well, at least they're not hiding the ball. Damn.
Yeah, it's like they love bananas over there, huh? It's like crazy.
This shit is bananas.
Oh God, stop!
I guess they'll have that in the Court of Appeals.
Like you see it in movies.
Sorry.
Nice.
It's I don't know what movie it was in where they make it as a joke. Like the people in performances shooting like ping pong balls out of their vajayjays. I didn't think these are actual things. Like it's. Who puts things up there in the first place? You don't put edibles up there. That can lead to infection and sepsis.
What is in your search history, Viva? What are you talking about?
I'm saying I did not.
He covers Trudeau.
God. No, can you imagine putting like organics up in crevices and expecting not to have problems later on in life? Oh my goodness. Oh, now eat it. And if you don't, you're fired.
Yeah. It is the women of negotiable affections who corrupt the morals of donkeys and other things that do those sort of things.
The morals of donkeys.
Oh my gosh. Man, I feel bad. America is broken, David.
Well, the one that got me was that they're apparently shooting dildos out of the orifice, because I've heard of the ping pong ball trick. I didn't know you could shoot entire dildos, because I would presume those have significantly more mass. How much distance can you possibly get?
Oh my gosh!
Pressure,
right?
Shining down.
It may depend on the hot sauce.
Under pressure.
I've heard of Kegels, but I mean, how does it work up for that?
Has anybody ever shaken someone's hand after you saw them sneeze into it and you didn't want to be rude, and then you're like walking like you got to get to a bath? Can you imagine catching a dildo that has been projected out of a stranger's vajayjay? Okay, and it's not projecting because it's dry and not like. Oh, and then you just catch it. Hey, what are you gonna do now? Hey, let's go have dinner. Let's go have a Mr. Beast burger. Here, call back again. Let's go.
You're gonna be loving that Mr. Beast thing. Do they have competitions between the strip clubs as to who can shoot it the furthest distance?
There has to be.
They have like
the sex
Olympics for this.
The Veg Olympics. Yeah.
You know what? Speaking about this, Viva, can we please show Viva's video with the kid with the fish? That was crazy.
Don't shoot it. Your video will get claimed if you do it because the news player is licensing that video.
That is such a great video, man.
It's my pinned tweet. But even when I put my own videos that are licensed through a news flare, and it's not a complaint, it's just the way it is. They claim my videos that have my own content in them. So don't do it if you don't want to get your video claimed.
It doesn't sound good. Here we are talking about projectiles going, and then
no, this is
show one of the kid in the
this is a
fist.
fun video.
No, that sounds really bad.
No. This was indeed, Nate. We're at Robbie's Marina in Isla Morada, and you can hand feed the tarpon. And so we're hand feeding the tarpon, and my kid is not. She's like, nothing's gonna happen. It's only tarpon. There's a nurse shark in there, but they don't even have any teeth. And the tarpon jump out of the water and grab the minnows out of your hand. She was not paying attention, and I got it in slow motion, knowing that nothing's gonna happen. The tarpon, it's a 6-foot tarpon, Legal Vices. If you've never seen it, its mouth opens up and it envelops her arm up to the elbow. But all they're interested in is the fish, so it pulls super slow motion, glorious video.
But just like going.
It's amazing. And when you watch it in slow motion, you appreciate that it's like a spring mechanism. It's not muscular, so it springs open, sucks all the water into its mouth, and then gets the fish. I got one with Ethan who it didn't quite get his entire arm. Oh, here, if you can see my hand, this is the worst that it does. They have sandpaper teeth, and it's sort of like
I love that it froze exactly on that.
Yeah.
It froze literally on this shot. This is perfect.
The Terrapins have claimed him.
Now my entire internet. I don't know what the hell the problem is with the internet here.
This is great. No, I like it. Good. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Well, by the way, David, didn't you have another story about electric fences? He's gone. All right. Well, it was nice having you. That's
great. That's a great closing frame of
yeah.
Am I back now?
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, okay, I just got into. I just like AT&T doesn't provide. No, I might be in I'm near the Glades, so maybe it's the internet. But yeah, don't touch those electric fences. My gosh, does it hurt? Don't play that video either.
I pissed on one as a child.
Well, okay, I've
got
a story about that actually.
Yeah. Yes.
Really?
You're not grounded.
Oh yeah, don't pee on them. I will tell you, don't pee on an electric fence. That is the truth.
Yep.
But, I used to have them growing up because we had goats and different animals, and I would always go with my friends. And if you know what you're doing, you know what's coming. So they'd be like, "Hey, is that fence electric?" No, I don't know what you're talking about. And I would just literally grab it and hold it. And it was always a fun treat.
The round ceramic, little things on the posts where they
string
the wire on. Yeah.
Yeah, but as long as you had around the wood. If you're running through wood, you don't necessarily have to have that.
Yeah.
So
now, gentlemen, I don't want to start the exodus. At 2:00, I've got Garrett. Oh my goodness, heck, it's his last name. How Garrett? Oh, come on, the Marco Polo. What's his last name? Garrett Ziegler. Sorry, I missed. Garrett Ziegler, Marco Polo, who broke down Hunter Biden's laptop from hell. So I'm going to duck out and continue my deep dive on Garrett Ziegler. But 2:00,
okay,
we're going to be taking Hunter Biden. Garrett Ziegler, the Marco Polo guy. He did a number of. I did a lot of Twitter Spaces. He produced a dossier on Hunter Biden, which you feel like you might be in possession of something very, very dirty by, owning that manual that he put together, which breaks down the corruption from beginning to end. So 2:00 he's going to be on, but I got to go do some homework.
See you then.
Okay, thank you very much.
See you, David.
Sure. See, thanks for coming by, man. All right, so next story. Who's got a good legal story that we haven't covered?
Well, we could talk about the woman who escaped from her homemade prison that the guy kept her in, and then he.
Oh, the cinder block thing.
Yeah,
I just saw the picture. I didn't read the story.
I've got jokes.
Please share.
Oh.
Already?
Yeah, no, I got jokes. Now, this guy is just massively misunderstood. He just wanted to provide a secure home for this woman and provide her everything she needed.
Okay, but after we got into the joke, how about if we get into the story?
Okay.
Jokes. So tell us what happened, Kurt. How does it?
Well, no, as I sort of implied, there's this guy who was kidnapping women, and he had built his own prison cell for them, made out of cinder blocks, but apparently didn't do a very good job. And so this woman punched her way through the wall and then managed to find authorities And find authorities, and obviously he's being charged with kidnapping and sexual assault, and they're looking for other victims and so forth.
Can
and
I
so
say
on,
she's a bad ass?
Yeah.
Well, but no, see, it wasn't like an underground cinder blocked in thing. It was like in the middle of his garage or something. It was just like a bunch of cinder blocks piled up in a cube with a roof on it.
That's still badass, though.
Punching through. I'm sorry. This is like Kill Bill level here.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like she's like in that grave, like digging her way out of her own grave. Like,
oh my God, what a nightmare! I mean, so it's like another Ariel Castro type of situation. The guy who had the women locked up for, I don't know, like decades.
This guy, I think, also kept like a list, a plan, a written plan of what he was doing and all that. So
don't do that.
Helpful.
Yeah, I think they think there have been other victims of his, and then he was getting worse as he went.
Don't write down your felonies.
No. Yeah. Or if you're this guy. If you're this guy, I want you to.
Ask World War II Germany. Don't document. Yeah. Bad news. It works out poorly for you. There might be a trial later.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a crowd pleaser. Let's go to Steve.
Well, I'm not exactly done yet. I'm going to bring up something that reminded me of this, because I was covering this YNW Melly rapper murder trial for a long time until they got a mistrial. But for some reason, just documenting things reminded. This was in court. He has this weird lawyer. I think she's like his handler. He doesn't really do much other than just talk to him and whisper occasionally. But in the middle of the trial, she wanted to talk to her client. And the way this courtroom is set up is the defense table looks straight across the courtroom at the jury. So she's talking to her client, and I guess she wants to cover her mouth so that the jury can't see what she's whispering to her client. So she covered it with a notebook she had on her desk.
Did the notebook say, "My client is guilty" in big letters?
Just about. I just put it here, so if you can bring that up.
This will be good.
Evil plans and stuff. Mwah, ha, ha, ha.
Oh my God.
Oh,
now are you sure she didn't hold up a blank book? Because
this
looks like a blank book with the Photoshop.
This is a screen capture from my live stream.
This is something she thought she saw, like would have seen at a store and thought was a good idea to buy.
Yeah.
And like, sorry, this is the kind of thing you cannot bring into a courtroom.
And he's literally charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. He is literally charged with evil plans and stuff. And she brought... it is.
It's a planner. Oh, my God. I want it.
Yes. This is a screen capture from my live stream.
It's a cool planner.
God. Okay, folks.
It's not for a courtroom.
Here's an affiliate link in the chat. Everybody go buy. Give me some money. Buy the book.
No, that just reminded me. I was like, okay, just don't leave memos laying around, and don't put them in a book called Evil Plans and Stuff. Mwah, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, I mean, if you have that book, get to court early, put it on the other side's table.
There you go. Affiliate link. Buy the book.
I mean, jeez.
If you want a good planner that won't get your client in trouble, I'll be selling this during the extra live streams in November. So
yeah, and her name is Raven Liberty too. That's kind of the cool thing.
That is kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess. Is that R-I or R-A-V-I-N?
R-A-V-E-N.
Like as in raving lunatic?
Yeah, just as in Raven the Bird Liberty.
That's her actual name, Raven Liberty.
I'm sure
she apparently had a different name at one point in her life.
She's doing a Taylor Shabusiness.
Yeah, it's sort of like Taylor Shabusiness was Shabusiness nay Coronado.
Taylor Shabusiness was a fun trial. And that woman was messed up, man. Oof.
That does sound like a stripper name, by the way, Raven Liberty.
Yeah.
Jade, aisle 3. Jade, stage 3.
But she's a weird character, this Raven Liberty. She's been arrested several times for like assault and trespassing, but she's never been prosecuted.
How does she keep being a lawyer?
If she's that was kind of the question. Evil plans and stuff.
They were all disposed of with the decision not to prosecute.
Well, what was it? That reminds me of one of the lawyers involved in Danny Masterson's case. On her lamp, it had something like, "Never let facts get in the way of a good argument," or something like that.
Well, that's a great Scientology lamp. Jesus.
Oh yeah, no, it was so perfect. All right, Melly has a new trial for October 9th.
4th.
Oh, yep, and then that does remind me of that too. To Serve Man. It's a cookbook.
Johnny and Edgar Winter and the dude with Hunter's laptop are everybody's favorite albinos. Awesome Johnny and Edgar Winter blast there. Kudos to you, choosy heretics. That's an awesome Johnny Winter blast. Nice.
The late great.
My personal favorite guitar player, Johnny Winter.
Jeff, you were covering the Y&W Melly trial?
Yes. Yeah.
And that ended up in deadlock mistrial?
Yep.
What were your thoughts about the level of evidence that the state provided?
I think the state did a terrible job the first 8 days, and then they brought on their star witness guy, and he sort of crushed everything I think the defense could have put up. So I was convinced at that point that there was guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Then they did the defense, they sent it to the jury, and they came back. They only deliberated.
And
for
who was their star witness? What was
he was the lead investigator for the deal. He filled in all the gaps and sort of locked the case down. But the jury, they only deliberated for like a day and a half or 2 days, and they just said we're deadlocked. And apparently there was so much animosity they had to keep them separated by like chairs and things. And his mother was like, "Yeah, they voted 9-3 for acquittal," but then one of the jurors said, "Well, I don't want my verdict to be misrepresented through history. So let me tell you what really happened. It was one woman who refused to give a guilty verdict, and she convinced 2 other people to join her. So it was actually 9 for conviction and 3 for acquittal that wouldn't budge."
Wow.
Does anybody know when Hannah Reid's trial is actually going to kick off? I think something's supposed to happen this month.
They got a prelim coming up.
Yeah, they just did the motion that was denied a couple days ago.
Okay.
August 9th.
August 9th. Who's covering this? I'd love to jump on with them there.
Well, Y&W Melly just had another status hearing a couple of hours ago that I
on the 9th in the morning. I'm gonna cover that in the morning. That sounds good.
I'll probably do I'll do some evening coverage because I got stuff during the day. But
is that during the morning? The hearing?
I'm guessing. I just found the article on it saying it's the 9th. I don't know if it's going to be live or not, but it's obviously.
If it's live and it's in the morning, I'll cover it, and you guys can come over to my channel if you want. That's fine.
Yeah, week-long hearing starts August 9th.
Oh, it's a week long?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'm only going to be able to cover part of it because I'll be in Anime Matsuri.
Ah, okay. I may actually be covering that and being completely incompetent. So
I'll do.
Folks,
I'm going to do evening coverage on that one because I just want to see what happens.
What day does it start?
The 9th. That's Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday. It's soon.
Maybe I'll cover it.
Let me know. I mean, I'm very deep into the Rust case, so whomever's covering it, I'm obviously very interested in that.
Do they?
It's going to be live streams.
I don't know. They have been.
I'll hook up with you. We'll talk after the stream. We'll talk about the show.
New Mexico does live stream some trials, so I would not be surprised if it was.
So yeah, I definitely want to see where that one goes. But all right.
And there was an indictment this week also. I don't know if you guys talked about that before I got here.
Yeah.
You did talk. You covered that?
No, has not been mentioned yet.
Have you guys? You heard there was an indictment. A pretty famous guy was indicted this week.
Some government guy or something, or ex-government?
Yeah.
Oh.
Isn't it somebody who's always indicted? I mean, isn't it like
that guy's so guilty?
I don't know. It's just. I mean, if you're talking about a former president, is he just indicted every few days?
Yeah. Apparently, he must be the root of all evil in our times. So it makes sense why he's routinely
the charges
indicted.
The charges really don't make sense, and one in particular doesn't make sense with the whole idea of committing fraud against the United States, because the United States Supreme Court has clarified that fraud in this context can only refer to money, not anything else. And so there's no allegation that he deprived the federal government of money. So I don't even know how they're theoretically trying to charge fraud.
Yeah, no, it sounds like an argument that AOC may have come up with, that this is fraud. That because I don't understand the legal basis of where they're coming from. And I think, frankly, what should be concerning to every American is the notion that the president should be held criminally liable for the way he tried affecting his governance. Meaning, if he went out and shot someone in the head, so okay, that's not really trying to affect his duties, but his role as the chief of the executive branch, in part, is to make sure that things are being run properly. And if he thought that there was fraud in an election that was happening in Ukraine, people would say he should intervene in that, right? I mean, if imagine that's what everyone understands, that he's supposed to be running our government here, and if our elections aren't being run properly, if there's a mayoral election, if there's any sort of federal election anywhere that he thought was being done improperly, shouldn't there be an investigation? And even though it obviously affects him, and everyone's going to assume that he's driven by his personal bias, if he's trying to carry out that role and there's any sort of fig leaf of relationship to what his primary duties are, you want to say that he's doing it wrong and he should be impeached because of whatever it is. Yeah, that's what our Constitution sets up for. But to turn his method of doing that and try and twist it and convolute something into being some sort of criminal offense that we should imprison him for is just an astonishing display of an abuse of power. Because at what point do we say, oh, okay, the way you were running the Treasury, we're going to try and fix and change actions into some convoluted new way of interpreting a statute. And the reason that everyone on the right is labeling this persecution rather than prosecution is because prosecution is when you see criminal activity and you prosecute it. Persecution is when you see activity that you change into being criminal. And for the sake of prosecution. No one thought that what he said there. There's a reason that everyone's saying, well, he incited January 6th. He incited January 6th. He needs to be punished for that.
They want to charge him with incitement, but they can't under Brandon.
That's what shows you how completely ridiculous this is. Because when everyone's thinking, anyone on the left who's not a lawyer is thinking, oh, we're finally getting him for inciting January 6th, but he's not being there's no charge of incitement. That they're trying to come up with some way to basically have him punished for January 6th, even though we know that legally January 6th was definitely not incitement. Jack Smith knows that was not legally incitement. So instead, we're going to try and reframe what statutes are in existence and how we can try and label that somehow applies to this set of activities. That's when you know that this is not at all about trying to find justice. It's a matter of trying to go after someone you don't like. And if the state has the power to change activity that everyone thinks is perfectly legal and then demonize it and call it criminal type of activity, then in that case, they have the ability at any point in time to say that any action you have done yesterday, last week, last month, we can reframe that now as something that's criminal and then throw you in jail for 5 years, 10 years, or the rest of your life. That is how you sow tyranny. That is the worst possible way of running a government, because it gives all the people who are in charge all the opportunity, and not just opportunity, it gives them motivation and license to go out and persecute anyone they deem as being a threat to their ultimate power and greed.
Good, here we go. We brought somebody in to argue with you.
Go for it.
Hey Joe, did you hear that some of the other judges sat in on the arraignment? I mean, to me, I've never heard of that. Like what does that show you about the DC judges up there? I heard that other judges were sitting in watching this going on, and it's like they all have it in for them already. There's not even a perception of
maybe it's a clinic,
justice.
Steve. Maybe it's a how-to clinic.
It could be. That's true. It could be, but I don't think so.
The other thing that was really interesting about the indictment is, even by Jack Smith's own admission, some of the stuff that's listed in the indictment seems to be legal, because it's like paragraph 3 of the indictment Yes. They make a point of saying Donald that Donald Trump has the right to contest the election. He has the right to say there's fraud. He even has the right to lie. The First Amendment protects lies. It protects out and out falsehoods and lies. And then they go on to say, well, here's some tweets he wrote.
And that was a lie. And that was a lie. So now he committed a crime.
And I'm like, wait a second. But you said earlier that this is protected speech. And now you're using lawful activity or purportedly lawful activity as a basis of your indictment. How's that work?
And one thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, one thing. Well, shocker. I actually agree with you guys with this one. But I'm taking it from a different tactic.
Show's over.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys. Great weekend. See you next week.
He did say but, though, Eric. He said but.
Oh, no but. I'm agreeing with you guys. This time, because again, some of them I think are all right. Some of them I think this one, the issue that I'm having with this one is different than I think what most people are talking about. Some of the conduct that they're charging Trump with was conduct that he did as president. Now, there's a difference between things you do in your personal capacity, but things you do in your ministerial capacity. I think in Canada we call them ministerial acts, but here we call them official acts. Calling the AG in and saying, I want you to check out this election, that seems to me to be an official act, calling your AG in saying, hey, I think there may be a problem. So that would be covered under the sovereign immunity piece, right? Because he's acting in his official capacity. He can't be charged with the crime if he's saying, hey, I want you to, like, just imagine in any other circumstance, he says, hey, I think this is something fishy, you go check it out. You couldn't say, okay, well, he's now conspiring to overthrow the election. It's like, no, but even if it doesn't pan out, that doesn't mean you can charge him with it, because under American law, generally, the president, in handling his official capacity, it's the separation of powers, doesn't allow the judiciary or even the legislature to prosecute him for that. So I think,
but Nate, Bill Barr told him everything was clean. President Bill Barr told him that everything was fine. Why? So
but
doesn't
it doesn't
prove that he's acting improperly?
It proves, to be honest with you, it proves nothing, because if he's acting in his official capacity as president, he cannot be criminally charged for any of those acts. But if he was acting personally, so for instance, there's two examples of this. Nixon, when Nixon was in office, the tapes thing and everything, when Nixon, he had to be pardoned because the acts that Nixon committed were considered to be personal acts with the burglary. Clinton, a lot of people don't realize, Clinton with the Monica Lewinsky thing, when he perjured himself in that civil trial, that was considered a personal act because he wasn't doing it under the capacity of president. He was doing it, it was a personal lawsuit, personal thing. So he went and it was a personal act. So he had to actually cop a plea bargain with the independent counsel before he left office, so he wouldn't be charged with those personal crimes after office. But in Trump's case, all of these allegations seem to be ministerial acts or acts that he was doing while under his authority as president. You know, hey, having the AG do this, investigate that. And if that argument holds up, then all this should go away, because you have the First Amendment argument, which I think is a great argument, but then you also have the ministerial argument, which I think is another bombshell, where he shouldn't be charged with any of this if they're saying he was president and he was acting under his presidential authority. I know I'm a crazy Trump supporter, but I think.
Why are they charging continuously, though? Is this literally just a manipulation to keep him busy, to keep him from actually campaigning? I mean, what is the purpose of it? Because
the charges are extremely overwrought at best.
I think they're hoping. Yeah, well, I think they're hoping that that to the independent person, assuming there is such a species out there, but to the independent who's like on the fence about him, that if there's enough indictments out there, they'll be like, well, I don't really know a lot about it, but if there's this many charges, it must be he's guilty of some of them.
To smoke his fire.
Or it could be they feel like if they had thrown him in front of enough juries, eventually one of them will convict him. So it could be that, but at the end of the day here, I was being facetious with what I was saying to Nate. He is the president. He's the one who makes the decision. I don't care if every one of his advisors says that's something that happened is they disagree with his opinion on it. He's the elected leader. If Fauci says we need to lock down, he says we're not locking down. It's his decision. It's not President Fauci. It's not President Bill Barr as to whether the elections are run. It's not President Brad Raffensperger as to whether or not Georgia actually got their elections correctly. He has every right, no, not right, duty to make sure that it's being done to to his satisfaction, that it's being run properly to his satisfaction. And even if you think he has a vested interest, we need a president who's not going to be afraid that people are going to think I'm self-interested in my decision-making now, and I might get convicted of a crime for the way I'm carrying out these ministerial duties.
But you can't. That's a constitutional violation. If you're carrying out your authority as president, you cannot be charged with a crime for doing that. I'm like, but again, I understand it's Trump, so everybody has a little issue with
I
that,
agree
but...
with Joe V816. It's very disappointing right now.
But isn't it the case that Mike Pence basically supports this? Happening?
Yes, he's gone in. Yeah, he's gone all in.
There are a lot of people associated with the government and high up in the Republican Party who are not sorry about this.
Well, you know, a lot of people don't realize too, the Georgia indictment, which is coming soon. If you guys don't know, the Georgia indictment is obviously going to be coming. The governor in Georgia could stop all this, right? He could he's done. But, you know, he's not doing that. Right. So I don't know what's going on, but you guys got to get your own Republicans on board with this. I'm like, yo, this thing needs to stop. You know,
because it's not Republican or Democrat. This is the uniparty. This is the uniparty. There's no difference over here between Brian Kemp or Chuck Schumer. They're all uniparty at the end of the day. That we want people who are going to support the establishment, who will look the other way whenever there's some sort of collusion that's happening there, that are going to care about making sure that our institutions remain sacrosanct and everything keeps churning along, where the people who are in elected powers of position are able to get engaged in corporate cronyism, and they could all go along and get along, and you'll make your argument against abortion, and I'll make my argument in favor of abortion. You'll make your argument against guns. I'll make my argument in favor of guns. It's like everyone knows where both sides are going to make their arguments. None of them actually believe in anything that they're saying. None of them have integrity or principles. It's a matter of, what do I need to say to my base in order for them to think that I'm the right leader for them? So there's no difference between Tim Scott and Biden. There's no or Pelosi or Schumer or Nikki Haley. All of these people are in exactly the same position. In the same position. It's just like, oh, okay, well, my base wants me to say this, so I'm going to say that. And you can see it on issues like Ukraine, where it's like, how is it that they just all come lockstep together on this? And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's something that actually enriches both parties. So it's the public is starting to see this, which is why someone like RFK, who's a populist and fighting against that, has risen so much in popularity. That's why someone like Vivek Ramaswamy, who's a relative nobody, is competing with those second tier politicians who are trying to knock Trump out of the primary, because people are looking what Trump awakened was this notion that our government is not looking out for our best interest. And people are starting to recognize that, and I think that's why I think they want him to be punished. I think they want to chill anyone from trying to give that sort of messaging. We're seeing them go after his attorneys in ways that no attorneys have ever been going after, because I think that this wave of populism that really started with Trump and has been flourishing with other candidates embracing it, and now we're even seeing it on the left with the likes of an RFK Jr. This is something that I think really, really scares the uniparty, and that's why I think they want him to be cowed. They want anyone who might go along this route to be cowed. That's what I think that's why there's all these indictments, that if you try, as Chuck Schumer said, if you go after us, the FBI is 6 ways Sundays to go after you, and they're trying to, and that's what this is a flex. It's a flex of there's so many different ways we can come after you.
What about recourse? Am I the only dumb person in the world who's like, isn't there some kind of recourse when you're abusing authority? Potentially. I don't know if he is. I'm sure that Jack Smith is a shining example of freedom. But what if he's not? I mean, can't there be some sort of a backlash or something else? Somebody help me out.
Well, who wants to do it, though?
I think the problem is that there's, and again, this is from my perspective, because I like to take each individual case separately and discuss them on the merits. The New York case, I think, is total BS. If his name wasn't Trump, he wouldn't even have the New York. The New York thing is this one too. I think this one is, it is what it is. But I wouldn't have bought this case. But I think they want us to punish him for January 6th so desperately. I think you got this. The other documents case, all right, I think there's something there. I would have taken that to trial. But I also think that when it comes to Trump, I think people kind of lose their minds and just say, let's just get him no matter what. And when you throw the good and the bad all together, then everything is bad. Because, you're like, well, the New York case is here, but so it's kind of like that, when you have all these bad apples and you have one good apple and you're like, they're just all bad. So I think the government's not doing, by bringing these kind of fishy cases, it's not helping there, because it just makes now like someone like, I think who's kind of in the middle, saying now they're just desperate to get him. And when this one from Georgia comes down, it's just going to be, again, another one. So it is what it is.
Wow. Exhausting. That's all I can figure. So
but this one in Georgia's coming though. If you guys, I'll bet whoever in here $20, he will be indicted in Georgia.
Yeah, for sure he will be.
Election. So
I mean, the Supreme Court cannot. The Supreme Court can knock all this out by basically saying that a president cannot be charged with a criminal offense
for ministerial acts.
For any ministerial acts that he engages in, which is something I think they should say. Because I think that helped that, and here's the thing: as far as the Supreme Court, I look at the Supreme Court. Everyone says it's 6-3. I look at the Supreme Court really as being 3 on the left, 3 on the the right in Gorsuch and Thomas and Alito, and then
it's actually like the public.
Well, hold on,
and then the other 3 of Barrett and Kavanaugh and Roberts. I look at them as being very leaning right, but strongly institutional. They're strongly in support of the institution. And I actually think that it'll be interesting to see where they fall, because these cases are going to come before the Supreme Court ultimately on several issues. So Gorsuch is on the right. But Kavanaugh, Barrett, and Roberts. What?
But he ruled for gay marriage. Like, he's the one that kept the whole, because me and Kurt had this big argument with the gay. What was it, Kurt, with the gay marriage one, where they were trying to get the thing, and then Kurt was like, he's an originalist. I was like, no, he's a textualist, and it was like, oh no, he is a textualist. He went against the right wing. He was the fifth vote.
I mean,
but the right has embraced everything about gay.
Gorsuch.
I'm saying everyone on the right has.
No! I'm not going to have this at all. Gorsuch's decision is very principled on textualism. I'm not going to have this be buried in some sort of, he's just overly fan of gays because gays. It was a very well reasoned decision. You're showing disrespect to my boy.
He is. I'm a big fan of Gorsuch also in general. I think he can show them, and he's one of the best at throwing shade also in his decisions.
He's very good.
If you're looking for a justice who's going to be an enjoyable, like a dig at someone, it's most likely going to be an opinion that's written by Justice Gorsuch. But those 3 institutionalists, it's a really interesting conundrum that I foresee them being in, because it's sort of pro-institution to give that protection to the president. And I think it's a proper read of the Constitution that he should never be criminally charged, that the constitutional process for going after a president is impeachment, unless obviously he's doing something exclusively individualized for his own personal benefits that are not related to his duties, like you were saying with Monica Lewinsky. If Trump had done something to personally go after Stormy Davis, that's not ministerial.
Yeah,
Stormy Daniels. Sorry, Stormy Daniels. That's looking out for his own personal interests. But when which cannot be tied to his role as to serving the American public, that's purely serving himself. But if it's in any way tied to his role of serving the public, it's wrong for a president to be second guessed, and that applies to something Biden does also.
Yeah,
that it's not just Trump, that applies to anyone. And because that's a very institutional type of approach of let's protect our institution of the presidency from being attacked 20 years from now, that every president is going to be brought by the opposing party in and say what you did here was a crime and therefore we want to try and convict you. So the institutional perspective should be in favor of Trump, but Trump is deemed as being so anti-institution that whether they'll actually use it in his favor is a really interesting conundrum that I think those 3 of Kavanaugh, Barrett, and Roberts are going to find themselves in.
But if they're institutionalists, though, they would have to rule in favor of Trump, because this happened before, for people who don't know, when it comes to governors. And whether what they were doing was personal versus ministerial, that's kind of where this kind of flowed out of. And it's the same for the president too. So I think if you're making the argument they're institutionalists, then the institution demands that ministerial acts not be able to be subject to prosecution.
Right. Right. That's why I said, but I think that the institutionalists hate him. They want to see him gone. So that's why they're in that conundrum. That was my point.
That's a good point.
Well, anything they do to attack the institution, of course, is going to attack the institution universally, which opens it up for Biden or anyone else, which they never seem to appreciate the long-term consequences of any of this.
No,
like if you open this up so that Biden can't consult in his advisors in full confidence, and he can't express his opinion in full confidence and send a criminal.
Right.
That's just like
it opens up the whole,
it opens up the whole
attorney is a
possibilities.
conspiracy now.
Apparently. I made this sort of classic lawyer joke the other day. It's like, why not just charge the attorney of the criminal for accessory after the fact? Because obviously they're inhibiting the government prosecuting the guy.
That's something I've been saying for a long time. But here in Korea, America should use Korea as a lesson, where literally virtually very, very nearly anyone that has ever held the office of president in Korea has ended up in jail after.
Oh,
why? Because
it's Illinois.
You do it to one person, that person
Illinois.
does it to your guy, then you do that to the other guy's person, then they do it back to you. And it's like, why would you want to do it at that point? I mean, anybody that wants this office, I don't understand. And that's what's going to happen. We saw it starting with the impeachment of Clinton. Oh, you impeach Clinton, so okay, we're going to go after Bush, and it just goes back and forth and back and forth.
Let me give people
with how politicians deserve to be treated. So
let me give people the law on the president and presidential acts is: number one, the president cannot be prosecuted while in office. He has absolute immunity, and that's from the DOJ in 2000 wrote an opinion about it and said the president cannot, while in office, he has absolute immunity. 2, acts committed by the president in his capacity as president cannot be prosecuted while he's in office nor after he's in office. And that comes from Clinton. That comes from the Clinton case with the DOJ and the independent counsel that ended that personal acts of the president, that he can't be prosecuted for that. And then the third one and 3 is the president can be prosecuted for personal acts only after he leaves office. And the citation for that is the Nixon case and Bill Clinton, and that's also the Clinton case. So that's the law, how the law allegedly is. But the Supreme, and just one last note, the Supreme Court has not directly made the point of that the president cannot be charged with ministerial acts after he leaves office. But that's an open question.
A lot of this seems to be within his job duties when he's asking people for the DOJ. When he's asking to meet with them, when he's asking them to write a letter asking to prosecute him, even if they say no, he's still within his job function.
Yes.
I mean, he is literally the executive branch, especially if you buy unitary executive theory, which I personally am a fan of. He is the executive branch all to himself. He is all of it. And so he can't give a bad order to another member of the executive branch because it's just him. He's giving order basically to himself. And so that's got to be okay. And some of this stuff is just free speech activity. What?
It makes for a great campaign slogan. Vote for me so I don't have to go to jail for 4 more years.
or vote for me so I can pardon myself while in jail.
I so want a president to pardon themselves. That would be awesome. And I don't care which side does it. I think it would just be awesome to watch the blowback and the fallout from that.
Clinton was close to doing it. If he didn't strike that deal, he was close to doing it. Last day of the office, he was like, well, I can just sign this. And they were like, okay, let's come to this agreement. He was disbarred from everything too. A lot of people don't know he was disbarred from Arkansas. He was disbarred from the federal circuits. Yeah, he was disbarred all over the place. But that was all part of that deal.
Hey, I've got a Rumble rant, and maybe we can close up on this one. Can any of you please do a legal read-through of the selective service contract so people can know 18 to 25-year-old males do not have the right to vote or financial aid? Now, I don't want to do a read-through, but does anybody want to address the subject?
Well, he's right. Yeah, you have to register for selective service, and if you don't, you can't get federal benefits, including financial student aid or a federal government job or anything like that. So, yeah, you have to register for the selective service.
Which is also known as the draft.
But
the draft technically is not the draft. We don't have the draft, but you have to register. I've always found that curious.
And I always thought it was hilarious that they're still like appointing members of the draft board, even though they don't have the draft. One of my librarians in law school is a member of the draft board. And the only reason I know that is because he wore his draft board pin on his suit every day because he was so happy about being a member of the draft board. I'm like, why?
Well, Republicans in the House of Representatives just passed essentially they're trying to pass a law that says, okay, if you have women who want to identify as men and have all the benefits of men, then they must register for selective services if you want to identify to get any benefits as a man. So if you want any of those benefits, you must. But the Democrats have rejected it. They said, no, that's not the way it's going to go.
No, we got to have
Make
it
the
both
women
ways,
register
Nate.
anyway.
Got to have it both ways, Nate. It's the only
Everybody register.
No, I'm for that.
What is this? You want the full consequences of your desired outcome? You want everything that comes along for the ride? Well, that's just too much intellectual consistency.
How about compulsory service? I'm not against that personally.
I'm not against it either.
Steve?
I used to think that could be something that could help the country pull together, but now I feel like they're trying to change the how the military, who's in it, how it's constituted. And so I don't know what they would do with all these people. I feel like they're trying to change the dynamics of how the military thinks about the citizens of the United States. That's a concern I have.
Well, I mean,
I think as long as it included a straight up civilian option, I'd be okay, because there's a lot of work that could be done in our cities, and reforming things and stuff like that, making the world a little bit of more beautiful place. So I think it might be okay.
Yeah, like
nothing like compelled labor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does put everybody.
We're going to pay you, but
And
what do you do if somebody refuses?
Well, the same thing you did if they show up for the draft. You put them in jail.
Yeah, $250,000 fine.
Hmm.
There you go. And so rich parents can take care of that, and we can have the nice class separation as usual.
Well, except if you're Muhammad Ali and you have the religious exemption.
All right. Well, on that note, I don't want to have any other exemptions. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Nate, when is your video coming out?
Hopefully soon. I have a couple more. I got another U.S. soccer video because somebody sent me this U.S. soccer video. They said, Nate, you're wrong. React to this. So that's a gold mine, thank God. And obviously the Mr. Beast video. So that hopefully they'll be out over the weekend. Because
and Lizzo, right?
Yeah, the Lizzo video. I'm now arguing with. It's crazy because I'm arguing with YouTube because I think I'm on the naughty list. But hopefully you'll be seeing my videos come out soon.
Naughty Nate.
The naughty list.
All right.
That's
Well,
right.
Steve's not naughty. So what's going on with you, Steve?
Well, I had the video out this morning on some of the high-profile cases and some things that kind of flew under the radar, including some orders in the Richard Allen case for murdering the two girls that were on the Moon and High Bridge. He suffered a couple losses that I didn't see reported and didn't see until I read the docket. So he's purportedly confessed in jail, and his lawyers sprang into action, but they suffered significant losses on that. So anybody want to catch up on cases with some maybe lower key information, I got that out this morning.
All right. Ian, you've been talking our ears off for the last hour or so.
It's just the Trump stuff I'm not following just because there's no way for me to talk about it without getting like 1,000 comments going, shut up, Canadian. So it's just like, I'll leave that to all you guys.
Doesn't stop Viva.
Fair, but no, there's a few stories I'm following. One of them is a small claims matter out of Surrey, but it's with a person who is a serial shady claims person. It's Jessica Yaniv, who's now Jessica Simpson, who is previously a trans individual who went and sued a bunch of
the massage
waxing.
Waxing, yeah.
Waxing,
that one.
like people offering waxing for not waxing her testicles.
Right.
So
I know her testicles.
Clown
Everybody
world.
framed that.
What did you just say? I don't understand that sentence.
It's clown world.
You did understand the sentence. That's the
No,
problem.
I really
Yes,
didn't.
sure, yeah, you understood.
You understood.
Well, what they're up to now is they went into a like a kebab shop and claimed that they were having a diabetic emergency and that they needed to bring in their dog, which is not an accredited service dog. And so there's this big dispute there, which is interesting given the racial dynamics of the previous lawsuits. So I'm just sort of looking at that going, yeah, it's fun times.
That should be non-contentious. Awesome. Jeff, what do you have coming up?
Maritime Monday on Monday. Not sure what we're going to cover yet, but we'll do something. And then Tuesday, I am covering the last Wednesday's congressional hearings on UFOs. And then I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. Yay.
Oh, awesome. Kurt, what's coming up?
Yeah, so just continuing to do the morning roundup. Didn't do it this morning because I wasn't feeling well, but typically 9:15 Central Time, 10:15 Eastern every day. I do a stream. Usually it's a news roundup of what's going on in your world, or sometimes it's a live trial or some other thing that's going on. For example, this hearing next week, if that's in the morning, I'll do that instead, that kind of thing. Otherwise, I post edited videos on my channel 2 to 3 times a day from those morning roundups. This morning, I posted a video dealing with the long breakdown of the case dealing with the Harvard discrimination case on the basis of race, going through that Supreme Court decision. So break that down in detail. And also, if you would like to help encourage me, I've been trying to go to the gym a lot more. I've been posting my workouts on my
Get it, Kurt.
I went 13 times last month, and I try to go every other day. So I've been posting my workouts. So if you'd like to see my workout results and help to encourage me and give me a note of support, I'd appreciate it, as I try not to be such a complete fat ass.
Are you on Strava or MapMyFitness or any?
I am using Fitbod as an app right now. It's an AI-based fitness app, and you can set it up different ways. I just have it set up to give me a full body workout every time. And so it keeps track of what muscles I did, keep tracks of my exercises, recommends different variety. So I've said, like, I want you to recommend different exercises that do the same thing, or you can set it the other way, and basically just tracks everything and does everything automatically. So Fitbod, if you're interested in, I've found to be a very good app. It's very inexpensive also, $100 for the year.
Social aspect of it, like for other people who are on there, they can follow you and kind of encourage.
I don't know if it has that social aspect or not, but you can, when you're done, you get the little like card that basically like the workout result card, and then I just save it as an image, and then I just post it on my YouTube community chat. So we do it the hard way.
Okay,
it kicks ass.
I used to do that when I ran more with like Strava and things like that, where it would track my runs every day, and other people who are running, you know, we encourage each other on workouts and things of that sort. So cool deal.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. Joe, everybody, Joe at the end, as always. And last week was a very special Joe rant, and hopefully we'll get lucky and get some great Joe wisdom this week. Joe always introduces, you know, where people can find him, and then gives us some of his wisdom, because Joe always has thoughts.
I'm Joe. I'm Good Logic. I'm probably going to be covering a trial next week. You're probably going to want to watch it. So there's that. It's goodlogic.locals.com is where you find me anywhere. And I just want to say about the phrase, her testicles.